What if the card in your wallet right now is quietly costing you hundreds of pounds a year and you have no idea? Somewhere between the free samples and the giant tubs of olive oil, something has changed at Costco, and almost nobody has noticed. Before we go any further, do one small thing for us. Tap that like button right now, not at the end, right now, while the thought is still fresh in your head. Think of it as leaving a trail of breadcrumbs so the next tired, confused shopper standing in a Costco car park can find this video before they waste their afternoon and their money. That is it. That is the whole ask. Now let us get into it. There was a time when a Costco membership genuinely felt like a secret handshake. Somebody at your gym, or your sister's husband, or the bloke who fixed your boiler would mention almost casually that they had a card. And you would feel a little tug of curiosity. What was in there? Why did they seem so pleased with themselves? Getting your own card felt like joining a club that did not advertise itself, a club that did not need to. Walking through those doors for the first time was an experience in itself. The ceilings felt impossibly high. The trolleys felt enormous, built for a different scale of shopping entirely. You would wander around slightly dazed, picking up a 5-kilogram bag of rice you did not need and a garden heater you definitely did not need. Thinking to yourself, well, this is clearly where the smart shoppers come. It felt like a discovery, not a chore. That feeling has been quietly dismantled, piece by piece, and most people have not clocked it because it did not happen overnight. It happened slowly enough that you simply adjusted without ever asking why. The car park that used to have space now overflows onto the road outside. The membership that used to feel exclusive is now handed out to almost anyone who asks the right question at the desk. And that trip that used to feel like an occasion now often feels like something to brace yourself for. Here is a small taste of what has shifted. Years ago, there was a workaround that spread through forums and group chats like gossip. An online-only membership for around £15. No professional qualification needed, no fuss. Plenty of people still repeat that number today as though it is current. It is not. That membership now costs the same as walking through the actual front door. Nobody sent out a memo about it. It just quietly happened, and half of Britain is still operating on old information. There is also a number shoppers have been muttering to each other for years. The idea that you simply cannot leave Costco having spent less than £200, no matter how short your list was. Ask around today, and you will hear people revise that figure upward. Some are now saying it is closer to 400. Once you understand exactly why that number keeps climbing, you will never walk in there casually again. So here's what we are going to do. We have pulled apart everything currently true about shopping at Costco in Britain, separated the outdated myths from what is actually happening on the ground right now, and built it into 10 things you need to understand. Then we will flip it around and tell you, honestly, what is still genuinely worth the membership fee. No fluff, just what actually holds up. Let us start with the layout itself, because it is not accidental. Walk into any Costco, and you will notice there are no aisle numbers, no signs pointing you toward bread or nappies or washing powder. That is deliberate. Retailers call this kind of layout a discovery format. Essential items get physically relocated every few weeks, forcing you to walk the length of the warehouse to find the one thing you actually came for. Along the way, you pass an inflatable hot tub, a pallet of protein bars, a year's supply of kitchen roll, and a telly. Your brain, faced with that much unexpected stuff, stops behaving like it does in a normal supermarket. Instead of asking, do I need this, it starts asking, will I regret not grabbing this while it's here? That single shift in thinking is the reason a quick top-up shop turns into a full trolley and a receipt that makes you wince. Next, the membership gate itself. Most people genuinely believe you need to be a nurse, a tradesperson, or a director to get through the doors. That belief works in Costco's favor because it makes the club feel exclusive and stops millions from checking if they qualify. Here's the truth. If you are self-employed in even the loosest sense, registered as a sole trader with no staff or premises, you can typically walk in with ID, a bank card linked to that activity, and a single invoice, and walk out with a membership. People describe this taking barely any time at all. On top of that, membership of certain organizations, including motoring and conservation groups, has in the past opened a route to full membership. Entirely bypassing the professional criteria most people assume are strict. This was publicly pointed out by a well-known consumer champion a while back, and it is still barely known. The gate that feels so exclusive is, in reality, far more open than the image Costco projects. Then there are the price tags themselves, and this one genuinely surprises people. Every tag in that warehouse is quietly communicating something, and almost nobody in Britain has ever been shown how to read it. Look in the corner of a price tag. A small symbol there often means that product is being phased out for good, and once the current stock is gone, it is not coming back. Now look at the price. If it ends in a particular pair of digits, that is frequently a manual discount applied by that specific store, often the lowest that item will ever be marked before it vanishes from sale. See both signals together, and that is about as close as Costco comes to waving a red flag that says last chance. Other price endings tell a different story entirely, a temporary promotion funded by the manufacturer, or simply the everyday standard price with nothing unusual happening at all. Staff will not tell you this at the till, and it is not printed anywhere on a sign. It is the sort of thing that gets passed quietly from one sharp-eyed shopper to another. We already touched on that £15 online membership, but it deserves a proper mention. That loophole is gone. The online-only option now costs the same as full warehouse access. And if you are only ever shopping the website, you are also likely paying a noticeable markup over in-store prices. If your card only gets you access to a web page rather than a warehouse, is that still a sensible deal? Now, the crowds. Ask anyone who has held a card for a decade or more, and you will hear the same complaint. It has become genuinely difficult to have a calm, unhurried shop there anymore. Warehouses that used to feel peaceful on a weekday evening now rival what weekends used to look like. Car parks spill onto surrounding roads. People who have shopped there since the doors first opened are canceling memberships entirely. Not because the products got worse, but because the actual experience of going has become something they quietly dread. The reason is straightforward. Eligibility widened significantly in recent years. Membership has been actively marketed in places well beyond the usual radius without new stores being built. More people were let in, but the buildings stayed the same size. If you want anything close to that old, calmer version of shopping there, timing is everything. Avoid the first weekend of any month, avoid school holidays, and avoid anything near a bank holiday. A quiet weekday evening or the final hour before closing is about the closest thing left to how it used to feel. We are just over halfway through, so let us pause again. If you have made it this far, you clearly care about not getting caught out, and that is exactly who this channel is for. Do us a favor and drop a comment right now, just one word telling us where you're watching from. It helps us understand who is actually out there watching, and it takes you 2 seconds. Then let us keep going, because the next few points might be the most important ones yet. Here is something that catches even experienced shoppers off guard. On many non-food and electrical items, Costco is legally allowed to display prices excluding VAT, with the true, tax-inclusive figure printed in smaller lettering underneath. That means the big bold number that grabs your attention first often is not what actually gets charged. On something like a television, the headline price can look noticeably lower than what you will actually pay. This mostly does not affect food, since most groceries in Britain are zero rated for tax anyway. But on electronics, appliances, and household goods, it genuinely changes whether something is actually a bargain. The habit worth building is simple. See the big number, mentally add roughly a fifth on top for non-food items. Then there's the mystery almost every single Costco shopper has experienced without ever understanding why. You walk in, try to check a price online or send a quick message, and there is simply nothing there. No signal, patchy Wi-Fi, dead air. For years, shoppers have half joked that it must be deliberate. Here is what is actually happening. These warehouses are enormous steel-framed buildings. Large metal structures like that behave a bit like a natural signal shield, scattering radio waves. It is the same reason your signal drops in certain multi-story car parks or on certain trains. Deliberately blocking mobile signal is also against the law in this country. So even if a company wanted to stop you comparing prices, doing it would land them in serious trouble. The far less dramatic, far more believable explanation is simply physics. Sometimes a building really is just a very large metal box, and a box does what a box does. Now for something that genuinely reframes how you should think about the whole shop. Costco caps how much it marks up almost everything it sells, keeping margins extraordinarily tight. But here is the part people miss. A tight margin does not automatically mean a cheap product. The guiding idea has always been quality first, price second. That means plenty of items simply are not cheaper than a supermarket at all. They are a noticeably better version of the same thing for a similar amount of money. This is exactly why the own brand range is worth a proper look rather than a dismissive glance. Under British law, the actual manufacturer has to appear somewhere on the packaging. Flip over a pack of their batteries, and you will often find a household battery brand behind it. Their tin foil frequently comes from a well-known name in that category too. It is not some anonymous budget alternative. It is often the exact same product wearing different packaging. Meanwhile, fresh produce gets far more mixed reviews, with fruit that spoils within days. The question is not whether it is the cheapest option, because for many products, it is not. It is whether you are getting meaningfully better quality for roughly the same money. Let us talk about the membership tiers, because almost nobody actually sits down and does this maths. The standard membership costs a certain amount each year. The upgraded tier costs roughly double, in exchange for a small percentage reward on qualifying spending. Sounds tempting until you calculate. To make that extra cost worthwhile, you typically need to be spending well over £2,000 a year. Spend less than that, and you're simply paying more for a reward you will never fully claw back. Spend more, and staying on the basic tier is arguably leaving money on the table. The genuinely useful detail is that the upgrade is fully refundable if it has not paid for itself. So there is very little actual risk in testing it for a year if your spending is close. Most people never do this calculation. They upgrade because a bigger number sounds better. Or they stick with the basic tier out of habit, never checking their actual spending threshold. And finally, tucked away, is a section a lot of members walk straight past, assuming it is trade only. The tire center is genuinely open to any member, and professional fitting is typically included. This is worth weighing against a quote from a garage before assuming it is the cheaper option. Be careful with some of the bigger claims floating around online about this section, though. Several people have directly disputed stories about endless free extras at these tire bays. Treat any promise of unlimited free perks with a healthy dose of skepticism. Always ask the specific warehouse exactly what is covered before committing to a purchase. That is 10 things worth carrying into your next visit. Now let us flip the script entirely. Let us talk about what is actually still worth paying for, because some parts genuinely hold up. The returns policy is about as strong as anything you will find in British retail. Almost anything you're unhappy with can be refunded, with no standard time limit. No receipt is required, since every purchase is automatically logged against your card. Electronics carry a shorter window, but everything else remains remarkably flexible. Even more strikingly, the membership fee itself is refundable at any point in the year. No partial deduction, no admin fee, the full amount handed back. Think about what that means. You could join today and get your fee back 11 months later. There are not many memberships left in this country that offer that kind of safety net. There's also a price adjustment policy plenty of long-term members have never once used. If something you bought drops in price, you can get the difference refunded without a receipt. Just be aware this can be enforced a little inconsistently depending on the branch and the staff. The fuel station remains a genuinely strong reason to keep a card if you drive regularly. It is typically still cheaper than nearby average prices, although that gap has narrowed. It is worth checking the actual difference locally rather than assuming it is a dramatic saving. Members on the upgraded tier also sometimes get an earlier entry window at certain locations. On a busy Saturday morning, that can genuinely be worth more than any cashback reward. And then there are the products that keep coming up again and again from long-term shoppers. Tinfoil and cling film that seem to last a household for years rather than months. Large blocks of cheese that work out noticeably cheaper per kilogram than from a supermarket. The famous hot dog and drink combination, and the rotisserie chicken that consistently gets praised. Knowledge is the only real discount card that never expires. Shop smarter and walk in with a plan.